hardest MC? Is it K Dot, is it Aubrey or me? We the big three like we started a league.
Gotta find my...
Hey, I could never be nobody #1 fan. Your first #1, I had to put it in your hand. You pussies can't get booked outside America for nan. I'm out in Tokyo because I'm big in Japan. I'm the hit maker y'all depend on. Backstage in my city, it was friend zone. You won't never take no chain off of us. How the fuck you big stepping with a size 7 man's on?
You know I got language barriers. It's no accent you can sell me. Your Cole and Ivory know I'm a selfish nigga. The crown is heavy. I pray they my real friends. If not, YNW Melly.
I don't like vanilla cream to help out with your self-esteem. On some Bobby shit, I wanna know what Whitney need. All that puppy love was over in y'all late teens. Why you never hold your son and tell him say cheese? We could've left the kids out of this, don't blame me. You a dog and you know it, you just play sweet. Your baby mama captions always screaming, save me. You did it dirty all your life, you tryna make peace. I heard that one of them little kids might be day free. Don't make it day freeze. Cause if your GM is your BM secret BD, then this is all making plenty fucking sense to me.
I'm sorry that you gotta grow up and then stand behind them. Life is hard, I know. The challenges always go beat us home. Sometimes our parents make mistakes that affect us until we grown. And you're a good kid that need good leadership. Let me be your mentor, since your daddy don't teach you shit. Never let a man piss on your leg, son. Either you die right there or pop that man in the head, son. Never fall in the escort business, that's bad religion. Please remember, you could be a bitch even if you got bitches. Never code switch, whether right or wrong. You're a black man, even if it
don't. It's the angle that you really mess with. Just for clarity, I feel disgusted. I'm too respected. If I was fucking young girls, I promise I'd have been arrested. I'm way too famous for the shit you just suggested, but that's not the lesson. Clearly there's a deeper message. Deep cuts that never healed and how they got infected. Like if Dave really fucked your girl and got her pregnant. Talk about breeding resentment. Not sure how to ease the sentiment. The shit's too intimate.
I want to give my take on the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef. I know I haven't touched on it since Rick Ross and Drake dropped their diss tracks, whenever that was, a week or two ago. So I haven't really spoke on it since then. And we know about 8 different diss tracks that came out since then. And now since things then died down, because I wanted to wait until everything then died down and people didn't, both sides then release their disses and, let it marinate for a while before I spoke on it. So I'm gonna get my take on the beef. It's gonna be unpopular opinion, but I'm gonna give you detail and facts like I always do. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There's so many areas to touch on with this beef, but I guess the most important thing that I notice about this Kendrick versus Drake is how biased people is. A few people like myself been saying it, but like this didn't really show people true colors for real, how biased people is, because I literally didn't watch people, and it's more so, call it what you want to call it, on Kendrick's side than on Drake's side. It's just like Kendrick fans and that's people that's for Kendrick just won't be objective at all. Like every channel, everybody who I've seen talking about the beef, if they on Kendrick's side, they not even being objective a little bit. I might have seen a few people that have been objective, but most of them haven't. Like they didn't downplay anything that Drake didn't say. They didn't just act like he didn't say it, or they make up an excuse for Kendrick. And then everything Kendrick said, they act like it's gospel. And then the things that he got wrong, like supposedly saying that Drake has another child, they just want to sweep that under the rug and act like that ain't happened. Then all the allegations they want to sweep under the rug. So it's crazy how biased people have been. But and of course, Drake has had his biased people, mostly women and females, which I'm going to get into about this beef, which we know that Drake got a way bigger female fan and women fan base than Kendrick do. The same thing happened with Chris Brown and Quavo. Why, it seemed like Chris Brown just destroyed Quavo because it was mainly just women who just love Chris Brown that wasn't even going to give Quavo a chance. So, but I'm gonna get into that because that's gonna be, of course, a big big factor in determining on how I see things ending between this beef and both artists. But yeah, I wanted to point that out first that people is definitely biased. I ain't never seen nothing like this. Like people had their mind made up before the track even dropped. I'm sorry. Before, like Kendrick could have literally breathed on the track and people was ready to say that he won. Like like just like it's that simple and that real. Like I even taught people because was on the hip hop message board, like a forum where people be talking. And I remember when Kendrick had dropped Meet the Grams. And think it was Meet the Grounds, and the song is like 4 or 5 minutes, and it was already people commenting in less than 4 or 5 minutes, in like 2 minutes, a minute and 40 seconds, already saying, "Oh, did he kill Drake? This the best song ever." Oh, Kendrick, I'm like, how did you listen to a 4 minutes, 5 minute song in 2 minutes? Like, like that's when I knew for sure, like, yeah, I'm not tripping. Yeah, people just don't like Drake. It just is what it is. Like, it's really haven't been that much objectiveness towards it. And then it's just like everybody then, this is why I said it's a lot of bias, because then everybody who do like Drake, who said, okay, I'm on Drake's side. I think Drake did better, like Cameron and Mace and who else? A couple other people in the industry. I know it's on the tip of my tongue. I know why Rollo, at first he said that he didn't like Kendrick this, but then I know later on he said that he think Kendrick won. And there was a couple of people like in the industry that was saying that they thought that Drake was winning or they like Drake this, and everybody was saying, "Oh, you a OBO dick rider? Oh, you a Drake fan? Oh, you a Drake stan? Your opinion don't matter." So, it just crazy. Like you a Kendrick stan, so like it's the same thing. Like, how you gonna call somebody a dick rider and say their opinion don't matter if they supporting the artist that they like when you doing the same thing? Like it just, it just crazy to me. So that's the number one thing I noticed is that people were just biased, and then I didn't know people really hated Drake this much until now. Like I asked somebody, and then that's what's crazy. Get into my personal story. About how I feel about the artist. Cause yeah, I mean, I did pretty much touched on how biased people is. Like I said, I never knew people hated Drake this much, but then getting into me and Drake and how I feel about Drake. Cause a lot of people is saying like, oh, you a Drake fan, you a OVO fan, and that's far from the truth. I have to keep telling them. A matter of fact, I got this shirt on. Like, this is my favorite artist and favorite rapper. So you already know I'm more so of the old school hip hop. Nas is probably my second rapper. Eminem probably third. So like I'm from the 90s, 2000 rap. I think most of this new rap is trash. So I'm not no Drake fan at all. So I mean, I'm not gonna say at all, but like Drake is not one of my favorite rappers at all. And then when Drake first came out, I didn't like Drake for the same reason that people hate him now. Which, because I was like, because when he first came out, my girlfriend at the time, he was on Degrassi, and she used to watch Degrassi. She used to watch that show, so she was up on him early. And then I'm like, no, like, why is this dude that's on this teenager television show trying to rap? Like, like back then, like, like that usually never works. Like, when you a teen actor and like looked at like Drake, from Canada and all of this stuff, like ain't no way he gonna pop in a rap game. And that's how I used to think, and I didn't like Drake. But Drake is one of the people, like I'm one of the people I call a spade a spade. Like it's a lot of people who I didn't like, and you just have to prove it. Like you can't deny talent regardless. And that's how I've been in sports, especially like, you can't, it's been players that I don't like, but they just like you can't deny what you seeing. So that's how I really was with Drake, even in the beginning, because the first song I ever heard from Drake was Best I Ever Had. And then I didn't like Drake because of that, but then I was like, after I listened to it a couple of times, I'm like, this actually a good song. Like, this actually like, a good record. And then Drake first album I didn't listen to because I didn't like him. I didn't really care for it. The Find Your Love and all the stuff beside on there. I really didn't like besides Fancy and the song with Lil Wayne, I think Miss Me. But then when I went back and listened to it, some songs that I like, but I didn't even give him a chance his first album. It wasn't really into Take Care and then his features with Wayne because I was a big Lil Wayne fan. that I ended up really giving him a chance. And be like, okay, dude got some talent. He all right, but I still didn't like him up until, it became undeniable when he became the biggest rapper and he always on the radio, always got hit songs. He did the album with Future because I like Future music. Um, and then, when he dropped Controller, the Views album, you can't deny that that was that end, Scorpion, like, that little run he had when he dropped, Views and Controller in one dance. Then he followed it up with God's Plan and what is it, Nice Like That or something like that. Like them was the biggest songs. You can't deny that them songs are certified hits. So that's when I got to the point, like I can't hate on Drake. Like, he know how to make music. He make good music. Then the ghostwriting allegations came out that kind of killed him. But because one of his favorite albums that people like was Nothing Is, if you read in this, it's too late, because on that album he was actually rapping, but then it come to find out he had ghostwriters, so that really helped hurt him. But just like Kendrick said, and I've been saying it from the beginning, if most people don't like Charlamagne say that they like when Drake rap, they don't like Drake being soft and singing. I actually prefer the songs that Drake is like Best I Ever Had, and what's some other songs, even like Fall for Your Type, I Get Lonely, Trust Issues, Paris Martin Music, Hate Sleeping Alone, Come Through. Um, what's some other songs? But like them type of songs with Drake talking about women, even Teenage Fever, even Hold On, We're Going Home. I even like that song. Like I like the Drake, like when you talking about women, it kind of like got the little soft melodies in it. Like, because to me that fits him. Like I can see him as that. I don't like when Drake like rapping. Besides now, which I'm gonna get into the disses, but but I always felt like Drake can rap. Like you can't deny like Drake, he can spit like and I doubt that he got ghostwriters for everything. Like some of these verses that he didn't did himself. So, like Drake is he a good enough rapper to where you not like Drake is just trash. Like a lot of rappers you look like, when it's just like this dude is just trash. Like Drake is actually decent, but I prefer the songs that I named, Hey Sleeping Alone, or what's the other song? Cameras off of Take Care. And then dang, what's the song with Lil Wayne and Andre 3000? The Real Her off of Take Care too. Like that's the Drake that I actually prefer. But so yeah, so I couldn't deny him, like, like you can't deny his hits and that he has talent. So that's why I just stopped at hate Drake. But I was never like the big Drake fan. He just kind of won me over, like, undeniably, like, and then I'm looking up and I'm like, dang, he was his first album, like when I first heard him, that was like my senior year in high school, and now I'm 30 and he still talked about it, still big. So you can't like look at how big he been for how long. Like you can't deny that. Like he done reinvented himself for real and did his thing. So that's how I always looked at Drake and how I look at Drake. Like, he a talented artist. I would never put, like, I don't put Drake in the top rappers like like Tupac and Eminem. Like he's not even that to me. Like they say, like he is like a pop star, or he like I always put him in a like Nelly, Ja Rule category, to where like they rap, they technically rappers, but that they make songs for women and they make catchy songs. Like that's just what they do. Like they not on some rapping type stuff, or they not even like a Tupac, to where like they making like super conscious music, or nah. So, like I put Drake in the Nelly, like Ja Rule type of category. And he done been the best at that. I don't even, like put him when it comes to one of the top rappers. And then as far as Kendrick, um, I always felt this about Kendrick. I always felt that Kendrick is a great rapper and probably is the like best like rapper from this era, but I never was a Kendrick fan. Like because of a couple of things that some other people said, and Kendrick fans always want to shoot this down, but it's the truth is that Kendrick, like, like The number one thing is Kendrick voice. Like, yes, I'm one of them. I've been saying this since Kendrick came out. Like, on message boards, everybody know. Like, I've been saying this. Like, I could never get into Kendrick voice, like his alien voice. The sound effects. People that said this before. I'm one of them. Like, like, and it's the same. And I'm somebody like a voices. I didn't know that people voices mattered that much to me until like. But until I like realized like Scarface is another one from Texas, like the legend, and he just like Kendrick. Like I can't deny it. Like Scarface a good rapper, and especially his content is like Tupac content. So I'm supposed to like him, but I never liked the Scarface voice. Now that I'm older, I can tolerate. But when I was younger, I'm like, no, his voice is too a little bit too deep. Like I just didn't like how he sounded and stuff. And then there was a couple other rappers like you just can't get into because of their voice. So that's always like I didn't always like I don't like to typically listen to Kendrick. Like a lot of people say, um, like he got songs that I like I'm a big like a lot of people Section 80 fan. My favorite Kendrick song probably is what is it? AHD. I forgot the name. So but y'all know I'm talking about off of Section 8, ADD or something like that. That's probably my favorite Kendrick song. And then I gave Kendrick the most credit when he dropped Damn, and then he had DNA and Humble, because I always thought that Kendrick was somebody who made good music, but he couldn't make hit songs. And that's always been the thing. The one thing that's against Kendrick is that he not able to make like hit records for real. Even though I know Swimming Pools was, and then Poetic Justice, which had Drake, but like, he wasn't a hit maker like that. Like, because they tried to put him like in a Tupac box, but I'm like, the thing that makes Tupac the best rapper and different is that Tupac can be conscious and do all of that, but then he could make a hit song like it wasn't nothing. And then you could say like Tupac not as a technical rapper, but sometimes that goes against you. Like the famous Jay-Z line, I want to rhyme like common sense, but I did 5 mil. I ain't been rhyming like common sense. So, like, and then which I can get into Lupe also, because I do feel like Lupe was Kendrick before Kendrick, and can do all of the things that Kendrick did. He just didn't get the push, and like the backing of Kendrick then got. But like it's good sometimes. And then Eminem, I guess Eminem will be the best of that, because Eminem, one of my top three rappers, is that Eminem is able to do all of that, lyrical and metaphors and all that stuff, just like Kendrick. But then Eminem is able to make stuff simple too. And I think that's probably what Kendrick problem is that it's hard for him to simplify his lyrics enough, because that's what you really have to do when you making a hit song, and you make it something, because it got to be catchy and simple and something for people to easily digest. Like people not trying to party and turn up and do all of that while trying to think about all of the metaphors that you saying and all of that type of stuff. Like that serves this a certain purpose for certain songs. So I felt like that always been Kendrick problem also. And then on top of his voice, like that's why I always hold it against Kendrick. Kendrick is one of the people, and I think that people get caught up in is that you just like him, kind of like LeBron, which is funny, is that you just like him as a person. Like you see, he's a good person, like he's model person, married, a very conscious dude. So he's easy to like his personality and him as a person versus his music. And that's why I think Kendrick has a lot of fans and a lot of people in support of Kendrick, because do I just like him as a person? The same with LeBron. When I think a big reason why people call LeBron is the GOAT, because they just like him as a person versus him actually being the best basketball player. And I feel the same way about Kendrick. Like people like him as a person versus his music being really as good as y'all making it out to be. So definitely, but so yeah, that's I always felt about Kendrick. I always felt it was always Kendrick, J. Cole, and people forget about Big Crit. That's how I'm a big hip hop fan. Like, I knew about Big Crit. They was the real top three. Like the big three that everybody put their faith in in terms of like, the conscious rappers and the real hip hop heads. And I always felt like Kendrick is a better rapper than J. Cole, especially J. Cole then got better, because when J. Cole first came to like the Sideline Story, his first album, like a lot of people said, that was lackluster. He had a bunch of like bad lines and bad bars and corny lines on there, but he even got better over time. But back then, when he dropped that, and then Kendrick dropped Good Kid, Mad City, it's like, yeah, Kendrick is the better rapper. But I always said I would prefer to listen to J. Cole because J. Cole voice is a normal voice, like it's easy to digest. Like, I can listen to J. Cole over listen to Kendrick. Like if I just want to put some music on, I prefer to listen to J. Cole over Kendrick, even though I will admit that Kendrick is the better rapper. So that's just how I always felt about Kendrick, is that he's a great rapper. I like what he stand for, but I can't really get behind his music. The same kind of like LeBron, like, like I respect LeBron as a person, like you can't take that away from him. But when it comes to basketball, like he's one of the greats, just like Kendrick is, great. Like you can't deny that Good Kid, Mad City was a great album to a classic, whichever one you want to call it. But that was a great album. To Pepper Butterfly wasn't a bad album. And then Damn was the album that I kind of liked the most because he showed the versatility. He was finally able to make some hit songs and, had some good beats, but then he mixed in the consciousness with it also. So I like that. But then his last album kind of came and went, which we kind of at now that people don't want to talk about, even though people, the diehard Kendrick fans acting like they love that album now. But when that album came out, it really came and went. I was shocked. Like when it first dropped, people was talking about it, but like literally a couple months later, nobody was talking about it. Then it didn't have no hit songs at all on that album. But yeah, so that's how I feel about Kendrick. So now that I got that out of the way about the diss tracks and who I think won and how I think it's gonna end. In terms of who I think won, to me, it depends on who you think winning, what winning is. That's what's crazy, because it's winning, like they always say, it's winning a battle, then there's winning a war. So I feel like the same with kind of Rick Ross and 50 Cent to a degree, to where I feel like 50 Cent won the battle, but then Rick Ross won the war. And then even maybe to a certain degree with Nas and Jay-Z, even though most people would say that Nas won the battle and the war, but like he for sure won the battle, but the war is debatable because the only person that I can say won the battle in the war for sure was 50 Cent. Like, like he for sure won the battle in the war against Ja Rule. I can't say Tupac and Biggie ended so soon because straight soon after Hit 'Em Up dropped, Tupac died, and then less than a year later, Biggie died. So we didn't really get to see how that played out for real between them. So that's kind of really hard to say. The NWA, it's the same. Like you could say Ice Cube won the battle, but then in terms of the war, it's like Diddy, because I'm going to explain the difference between the battle and the war. So what I'm basically getting into is that and how I think it will end. So whoever wins the battle is the person who had the best diss record. Whoever had the best diss records and exposed the person the most and did the most damage to them, that's who won the battle. Now, the person who won the war is a long-term thing, like who won overall. So that's something that you don't know until afterwards. In the same way I feel about Pusha T and Drake. I feel like Pusha T won the battle, but Drake won the war. So that's what I'm basically getting to, is that like with Rick Ross, is that 50 Cent damaged Rick Ross credibility. Still to this day, people call Rick Ross Officer Ricky, but Rick Ross still had hit records after that. He got even bigger. He had his biggest albums after that. He's still rich and successful. He still like had a career after that. So it's like 50 Cent didn't end his career. And a lot of people feel like in order to win the war and to win it overall, you got to end a person's career like how 50 Cent did Ja Rule. So that's why I said that, like with Ice Cube and NWA, because like even though Ice Cube destroyed them on No Vaseline, Dr. Dre ended up to still becoming even bigger and maybe even bigger than Ice Cube, especially in music. So they still went on to do their thing. So that's why I said it's that in terms of who won the war, we don't know yet. That's yet to be seen how it plays out. Because just like with Pusha T and Drake, is that Pusha T destroyed Drake to where Drake didn't even respond, but Drake still continued to be Drake and the biggest artist. And then Pusha T, like it's still like people really didn't care. Like people didn't rush out to buy Pusha T albums and talking about Pusha T shortly after that. Every now and then people would bring up his diss track, and then we know Pusha T, the Clips was a great group. If you know about the Clips and like them, they wasn't one of their bigger groups, but like people consider their first album a classic. Grinding is one of the classic hip hop songs. So Pusha T is solidified in hip hop, but it's not like after that didn't happen, he still, like their careers, like Drake's career wasn't really affected like that. But like I said, he won the battle, just like with 50 Cent and Rick Ross, to where people still call Rick Ross Officer Ricky. People still bring up, even though Drake didn't, became a great father and, do be showing his kids. And, he had his kid in a music video. Then his son drew his last album cover. Like Drake be posting his son now and being a dad, but it's still that stinking and linger effect from that, of that happening, that people still like to bring up, even like Kendrick bringing up now about how Drake don't take care of his kids and Drake got missing kids, even though that's over with and it's not true, but it still stings just the same from people calling Rick Ross Officer Ricky, even though it's been a long time. And technically Rick Ross he was a CO. That's not the same as a police officer like they be trying to say, but it's still, the lingering effects. And to me, it was bigger the fact that Rick Ross stole his whole image from somebody else. To me, that's even worse than him being a CO. But people don't like to bring that up either. So we really ain't gonna know about that until afterwards. But I don't see it really changing. I see Drake continuing to be Drake. Longer Drake can still make hits and still make good music, and this don't like mess up his ego, because that's the only way that it can go left is this really like affect Drake's ego, and like he just forget how to make music and stuff like that. I can see it, but I don't see Drake, just being off like that. Cause I think Drake didn't reach like Eminem status. Like I'm sorry, like he has to where his fan base is so big and he just like so marketable and all of that to where I don't see him, being able to just his career ending, just like Eminem. Like, even though I feel like, and I'm a big Eminem fan, I feel like Machine Gun Kelly got him good. Some people didn't, and then I do feel like his music then kind of fell off as of late. I would even admit that, even though I don't think it's like people been saying like Eminem last 5, 6 albums been trash. Like that's not true. Like Marshall Mathers LP was good. Um, Recovery, people act like that album was terrible. That wasn't bad then. Eminem fans like myself went back and realized that Relapse was actually a good album. Like Relapse might have been actually better than like his last albums that he didn't put out since like the Eminem show. Like, when you really listen to Relapse, Relapse had a lot of good songs on there. And he was rapping, but Marshall Mathers LP was good. And then Music to Be Murder Mine, that wasn't a bad album. It's just that Kamikaze album, with the song with Beyonce on there. And then he had another album. Oh, the album with I think the airplane on it. No, I think that was coming, but no, he had the American flag on it. Revival. I think that's what it was called. I think it's Revival. So like Kamikaze and Revival, like them two albums was bad. And Eminem even admitted it himself, and they was bad. And then Recovery, looking back because at the time I thought Recovery was a good album and better than Relapse, but now as time went along, Recovery kind of have aged bad. And then I kind of do feel like Relapse is better, but Recovery has some good songs on there like Seduction and stuff. But overall, yeah, it ain't as good as it was. But anyway, that's what I'm getting to is that Drake has kind of ended up reaching. Yeah, I feel like Drake then reached Eminem status to where people his fan base is too big, and then especially with Drake and having the females, because that's what I was getting to about how I think this will win, how I think this would end, and who I think won. So like because you know women not gonna stop listening to Drake because they don't like Drake. They don't care about hip hop like hip hop is. They all about, making turn up and feel good music. And then, women all about who they attracted to and like as a person and all of that. So, they gonna still support him and still feel like he won, even though there is some women who don't like Drake, and Kendrick do have some female fans. We speaking in a majority, like we all know that Drake has more women fans than Kendrick, and Kendrick has more hip hop fans. So that's really where this beef is come down to and how it's gonna end. Now, for the most part, I feel like like hip hop heads and people who claim to be like hip hop backpackers and people who like lyricism and conscious hip hop, they gonna say Kendrick won. And then women and people who like just the general hip hop and like hit records and stuff like that, they gonna say Drake won. Like that, and that's what this battle really was about. That's what made this battle different and kind of interesting, because it was kind of like that's what it really divided the lines into. It's basically hip hop heads and conscious rappers versus like what is the word? Like, like pop rappers or superstar, like hit song rappers, or, like however you want to, break it down. But, like that's really been what two rappers is. It's always been the conscious rappers and the lyrical rappers. Then it always been the rappers who, make good, make hit songs and make songs that you can vibe to, and, the stereotypical rap or whatever, if you want to call it. So that's where really Drake and Kendrick really, and that's why so much bias is coming out, because this then really divided the lines. Because all of this stuff about white versus black and dark skin versus light skin, some of that plays a little role, but that stuff is, overall really dumb. It's really about like, hip hop heads and conscious, fans versus like, the typical stereotypical rap fans. So it's always going to be the divide. And I feel like that's just how it's going to go. Hip hop heads is going to say Kendrick won and continue to support Kendrick. And then the masses, like the stereotypical hip hop fans, the casual hip hop fan is still gonna support Drake and gonna say that Drake won. That's how it's really gonna go, and we know it is. So I don't see nothing really going nowhere, because I think that when Drake dropped, unless the only way that this battle gonna be determined is if one of the rappers fall off. If Drake stop putting out hits, or if Drake start dropping music and it's like, no, this don't sound good. And then if Kendrick do the same, because Kendrick fans gonna eat it up regardless, just like Drake fans, the hardcore fans gonna eat it up regardless. But the casuals is gonna really, like, the people in the middle, like me, is gonna be the ones to decide. Like the people who's not a big Drake or Kendrick fan, like the average, fan who not a stan, is gonna be able to determine, because we're gonna be objective about it. But I feel like with Kendrick, like his last album, like Kendrick fans even can admit, and most people even said, like it was his worst album. And then it came and went. I haven't seen nobody say Mr. Morale is better than any of Kendrick other albums. Good Kid, Mad City, Damn. Like, even the biggest Kendrick fans won't even admit that. So his last album was his worst album. And then, like, they've been seeing, been taking a lot of breaks in between and not really dropping like that. So I think that he has the biggest kind of to worry about with his next album. Like Kendrick has to drop a great next album, a classic next album, or it's gonna be like he didn't drop two bad albums in a row. Then it's gonna start to get dicey and shaky. And then also, if he take a long time to drop, like if he just disappear, like people was talking about him, like Drake broke up and he don't drop, but I think he's gonna drop an album this year, because that's what Drake was saying. And then it makes sense to capitalize on this, the start of beef and get everybody ready for your next album. Like it'd be stupid for both of them not to drop an album now, which I'm gonna get into how I see this thing. Like both of them should be dropping an album later this year and capitalize on it. And their next albums is really gonna determine who really won. And Kendrick has to drop a great album, like another Good Kid, Mad City or Damn type of album. And then Drake just have to drop some hits. If Drake next album don't have no hits on there, Drake gonna start to fall, and then we gonna finally, like, it's gonna be looking like Drake might have finally fell off and Kendrick won. But Kendrick, if his next album is like Mr. Morale, to where it just comes and goes and it's not really talked about or praised like that, it's gonna start to look bad for him. So that's how I really see this going. In terms of like how I think it's gonna play out, I think they both gonna continue to do what they do. Like they both got big fan bases. Kendrick gonna continue to drop and people gonna praise it and stuff like that. I think Drake gonna continue to do his thing. Which one more likely? Like if I had to choose, what do I see more likely happening? Drake stop dropping hits, or Kendrick puts out another like bad album or album that comes and go? Being honest, I can see Kendrick dropping another Mr. Morale or an average album versus I can see Drake falling off and dropping bad music. I just don't see Drake like just falling off and not being able to drop albums like that. Then, like I said, it's that Drake got and that's why people hate Drake, because Drake do got the Eminem effect to where he the perfect marketable, just like Dr. Dre got Eminem. Lil Wayne is a genius, and he know he is for signing and getting Drake because Drake is one of the most marketable artists that there is. He half black and half white, so he's able, and then he light, so he's able to get the white people fan base, and he Jewish, which a lot of people don't like and like to bring up. So he got the Jewish community, and then they run stuff back in him. Then he has the women because he makes songs for music, and that's why he always smart, and that is always good. Like we know that artists make songs for women, they always do got the advantage over men, because we know that women goes to concerts the most and women buys the most albums, and there's more women than men. So when you got a woman, that's why Nelly was so big, and Nelly was the biggest selling artist right besides Eminem. Like that's why Nelly outsold Jay-Z. And because when you got the female fan base, that's why LL Cool J was so big. Like, that's why Chris Brown is so big. Like when you got women, you winning. So that's why I said Drake has the women because he's able to make songs for them. And then Drake do got like his rap fans, that the hardcore and conscious ones, that's Kendrick fans, don't like him. That's why he got a lot of people in hip hop who don't like him. But the casual hip hop fan, like, the dudes who just like to just, listen to catchy songs and, listen to Lil Baby and the stereotypical rap and Future, they gonna still like Drake and listen to Drake. So that's why I said it's that Drake really at a point to where he can't lose. But I do see Drake, because it's just inevitable. Even Michael, even LeBron, everybody falls off and starts to go down and decline because people just get tired of hearing what you gotta say. And that's the thing about music. Everybody gets to a point to where they tired of hearing what you gotta say. So I feel like Drake is getting into that point, because I think his last couple albums, they ain't sold as much. People saying they not as good. And then even me being an ejected Drake fan, his last couple albums haven't been good. Like his last real great album probably was Views, or from Scorpion was all right. And then most people didn't like Certified Lover Boy. And then For Your Dogs, most people consider like his worst album that he done dropped. So he didn't kind of tail off, his hype when he was the best is when he dropped Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, If You Reading This, It's Too Late. And then, Views of Scorpion, they wasn't great albums, but they had the hits on there, like the, certified #1 hits on there. So them albums kind of was what it was. So I can't see Drake starting to kind of decline, because he get to the point like Lil Wayne, to where Lil Wayne was still been dropping good music and still been dropping good music after Carter 4, but people just got to a point to where they get tired of hearing what you got to say. And I think that's every artist, even with Eminem, to where, and Nas, even though Nas been dropping great albums, but it's like, no, nobody really care no more. Cause it's like rap, just like anything, it's like when you the new kid in school, like people just get tired of you after a while. And I think that's what's going on with Drake, is that people get kind of tired of him. But the only thing with Drake is that there hasn't been nobody to replace him. That's how I usually go with Ja Rule. Like, somebody has to come and take Drake's spot when it comes to making hits and being like the new kid in town. Like somebody has to take Drake's spot from that of being like, you know, the new marketable person. And then yeah, as far as Kendrick, like I said, we gonna see how that really goes because um in terms of him making music, and then that's one of the things that a lot of people say about Kendrick is that his music don't have replay value. Like it's good for once, but like people don't like to really listen to it like that. So Kendrick got to be careful to not falling towards a little bit back towards like a Lupe Fiasco, even though he bigger than Lupe ever was, to where, he just the lyrical rapper that the hip hop fans like Lupe or a Pusha T or something like that, but they not fully supporting them. And then that's when it comes down to hit songs, because I always feel like you have to drop hit songs. You got to keep your name out there. Like you can't survive on just making albums that's like great, or like concept albums that, they might get praised a lot, but they come and go. Like you need that stuff, like, the hit songs that like kind of give you the staying power to stay on there. That's why I felt like he did his best when he dropped Damn, the album Down, because he had DNA and Humble on there, and then a song with Rihanna, but then he still had his conscious stuff to where people still considered it like him not fully going pop. Like Kendrick can't do a Drake and just go an album full of hits and like, stuff. He has to be balanced. Like, Kendrick got to find that balance, and I got to see if he can do it or not. So, yeah, and then lastly about the diss tracks, who I think won personally in terms of the music, because that's the big thing, is that I honestly, I mean, I'm being completely honest. I like Drake diss tracks better than Kendrick. Most people don't. I do. Like I feel like Drake tracks had the better beats. It's easier to listen to. He had better lines to me, but everybody just hate Drake and just bigging up what Kendrick got to say. Like to me, Kendrick didn't put out no diss track that's better than Pusha T diss track, and that's the standard that people forget, and that's holding Kendrick back, is that, everything you saying, like, it's none of it's like, Pusha T did it better. Like, like the standard already been set. And to me, Kendrick haven't met that. And Drake got the benefit that nobody has went against Kendrick yet. So everything that Drake is saying is new, and it hits like new. Even stuff that I didn't know about Kendrick and all of that type of stuff. Like, what Kendrick saying is all stuff that Rick Ross said. Like, that's what people was forgetting, is that with everybody going against Drake, everybody, like, everything is being said and people using the same jokes. Okay, you got a BBL, you got a fake stomach. Rick Ross said that. You hiding a kid. That's already what Pusha T said about Drake. Oh, you can't say nigga no more, you not black. Rick Ross said that. And then Pusha T even said that when he said, yo, hair don't nap enough. Like, like, people then already called Drake out for being mixed and being white, about him being lame, and then people then already called him out for ghost writing. Meek Mill did that, and then not hiding his kid. People didn't like everything Kendrick can say, everything, and that's just like with Eminem, how Eminem won the 8 Mile. I never forget Charlamagne that said this, that it gets to a point to where everything that already been said before. So it's like it really don't hit the same, and that's why I felt like Drake won to me personally, because I feel like Kendrick didn't say nothing nothing new came out, and then he didn't do it as good as Pusha T did it. So yeah, and then like I said, the hating, like the whole, all people is getting from the Kendrick diss, because after they found out that Drake didn't have another kid, which kind of made Kendrick look dumb, and people keep forgetting how masterful Drake did that, because it was on the opposite side, and Drake did release the diss track, and Kendrick fed him information, and it was a lie. People will be clowning Drake, but people trying to sweep that under the rug for Kendrick. So, the only thing they trying to keep saying is that, Drake like underage girls and all of this BS. And that's how, like I said, it's really biased, because most people know that this is not true. Like, if it was really true, Drake would be in jail right now. Just like Drake said in the song, and people, oh, he crying, but it's just the truth. Like, y'all keep making fun of him and running with it. And then if he address it, that's why I said that I've been seeing a lot of bias with this because the people were like, why Drake ain't addressed being a pedo? Drake haven't addressed him underage. People were saying that after Kendrick released that, everybody kept saying, why Drake ain't saying nothing about that? And then when Drake make a song about it, then y'all say that he crying and waving the right flag. So y'all just said he didn't. Y'all kept asking why he didn't deny it. Then when he denied it, he crying and y'all don't want to hear it. Like, so it's like really Drake can't really win. So, which is crazy to me. But so, yeah, that's just how I feel. I personally think that Drake actually, one had the better song towards Kendrick. Because, like for the reasons I just gave, that Kendrick didn't say nothing new, and he didn't meet the standard of a Drake diss. And then Drake, like Drake was working with House Money because, like I said, nobody dissed Kendrick before, so we got a whole bunch of new information and oohs and ahs and all of that type of stuff against Kendrick. Like Kendrick, legacy, whatever fans could try to ignore it, but Kendrick definitely then took some hits that he haven't took because nobody ever came or said some of the stuff about Kendrick. Him and his wife having problems and him, might beating on women and making fun of him being short and a midget and all of this type of stuff. Like we never heard that type of stuff. It's all new ammo going against Kendrick. So that's why it kind of hits more for me personally. But that's my opinion on the Drake and Kendrick beef. We'll see how this end up playing out, but I feel like all Drake has to do is keep on making hit records and he gonna be straight. He just can't fall off and start making bad music. I don't think that this really gonna hurt him because, like I said, all the stuff Kendrick said, we already been know. And and Pusha T said, like, if Pusha T didn't really stop him like that, this Kendrick stuff is not gonna stop him. Nothing Kendrick said is that impactful, and this is not gonna sway women and women from supporting and liking Drake. And it's not gonna stop the record labels from pushing them. So, that's all Drake got to do. But the Drake quality of music has been dropping. So it might get to a point to where, and then, like I said, people is going to get tired of listening to Drake. So I do think that eventually Drake going to fall off, but I don't think it's going to be it's going to be soon enough. And it's going to be because of this. I think in about the next few years, then Drake pushing 40 and stuff, it's just going to get to a point to where people tired of hearing him, but it ain't going to have nothing to do with Kendrick. But I do think from Kendrick, a little of this is going to linger over and people going to be making fun of Drake, but nothing is going to sting more than what Pusha T did, because that still stings today about him and his son and stuff. And then as far as Kendrick, like I said, Kendrick got the most to do because Kendrick, like once this died down, like Kendrick has to drop another album and Kendrick got to find a way to drop some, hit songs and really like get his name out there. So that's my opinion on the beef and how I think it went and how I think it's gonna end. So y'all tell me what y'all think.